Hey y'all, my name is Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video we are doing my November wrap-up and my December TBR. So first off, I did a poll over on my Instagram. You can find that in the description down below if you're not currently following me. And I asked, should I do the usual or a tier ranking for this month's wrap-up? I was kind of just feeling like changing it up a little bit. I wanted to do something different. Well, tier ranking won out by a lot. So we're going to be tier ranking this month. However, let's start off with stats like normal. This month I read 15 books, and across those I read 5,450 pages. I think that is the most I read in a month the entire year. My average rating was 3.47 stars, so not the best month, pretty average. And my genre breakdown, I read 1 romance, 1 nonfiction, 1 contemporary, 1 historical fiction, 2 horror, 3 mystery, and 3 fantasies. As I said in the beginning, I am also going to be doing my December TBRs because I am partaking in 2 separate readathons, so I have to plan out my reading a lot. I will put a timestamp to that in the description down below if you want to jump ahead, but let's go ahead and jump into my wrap up for November. First off, let's go over the different tiers I have. I have new favorite at the top, followed by good, meh, not for me, and LOL nope. I'm sure you can guess what that means. Let's just go ahead and get my 5x5 reads out of the way. Put a link to that in the cards right here, as well as in the description down below. I do full reviews for each of these books if you are interested. A Deadly Education, meh. Dreary fanfiction. Gonna leave it at that. Bunny by Mona Awad, good. One of the weirdest books I've ever read. Very much enjoyed it though. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, meh. There was a lot going on in that and it kind of got confusing. People Like Us, it was pretty good. It was very enjoyable YA mystery. Definitely one I would recommend. The Lying Game by Ruth Ware is an LOL nope. I didn't enjoy this. And if you want to find out more, go watch my 5x5. Okay, following that, I also read Get a Life, Chloe Brown this month, and this is a new favorite. I loved this book. It was so cute. It was a very adorable romance read following Chloe Brown, who suffers from fibromyalgia, and after a brush with death, she makes a list of things to sort of get a life and get out of her bubble, and she ends up roping her neighbor slash handyman into helping her with it. His name is Redford Morgan, and he is an absolute cinnamon roll, precious as can be. I loved him so much, and I just have to say, Talia Hibbert's writing of sexual tension was fantastic. It really kept me engaged in this story. I was so invested in their relationship. I can't wait to read the continuation, which is Take a Hint, Danny Brown. I also read Devil's Knot. This, I don't know if I would necessarily call it a new favorite because I don't think I would like reread it anytime soon, but it was very good. I gave it 5 stars. This is a fantastic nonfiction true crime read. The story is following these 3 teenage boys who were accused of killing 3, I think 8-year-olds in the 90s, and essentially they were persecuted in the time of the Satanic Panic because they were really unusual. They wore a lot of black. They listened to a bunch of heavy metal music. One of the guys actually was a practicing Wiccan, and they lived in the Bible Belt, so they were seen as very odd, and it wasn't considered a stretch to think that they killed these boys in some kind of a satanic ritual. It really is just a showcase of why we need fair trials when someone is accused of a crime. I had to put this down at different points because I would get too angry or wrapped up in it. It's a great book. It's a great case. Thankfully, these 3 teenagers were exonerated in, I believe, 2011 and have been released from prison. But it's really unfortunate that they lost 20 years of their life. It's a rough read, but it's a very important one. It's one of my favorite true crime stories. Next, I read I Killed Zoe Spanos by Kit Frick. This I read as part of the Hannah Montana Readathon. I'll put a link to that in the cards right here. I also read Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Forgot to mention it then. This was a YA mystery, and while usually I really love these, unfortunately this one just didn't really drag me in. There wasn't a lot in the story to make it feel like there was high stakes. I wasn't particularly interested in any of the characters. For most of the story, it seemed as though suspicion was supposed to be on this single character alone, and then at the very end a twist is thrown in that kind of shocks you. But I had a hard time suspending my belief that much. It just seemed a bit too out there for me. So I think I'm gonna go with meh. It was okay. I also read Layer of Dreams by Libba Bray, which is the second book in the Diviners series for that Hannah Montana readathon as well. Unfortunately, this is gonna go in meh also. I liked the first book. I definitely had some issues. I read that for my Halloween 5x5. You know the drill. But with this one, I definitely had more issues with the characters, and there's just so many different points of view, and it's a lot to keep track of. Along with that, actual plot in the story seemed pretty non-existent until like the last 100 pages. Romance and character development, and I like those things, but this was like a 600-page book, so that's a lot to push through for very little plot in the end. I am planning to continue the series because I must admit Libba Bray has me intrigued with her world, and her atmospheric writing is fantastic. So I'm putting this in meh, and I'm hoping the series will improve in the next one. Next, I got an arc from NetGalley of Mary, the great some number of greats, granddaughter of Mary Shelley. This is a graphic novel that is following the great ×6 granddaughter of Mary Shelley, who finds out that she has powers to heal monsters. She's also in high school, so you know, teenage drama thing going on, as well as the fact that she is now struggling to understand these powers that she has and her family has kept hidden from her. Was a good read. It really made me think of those Saturday morning cartoons I grew up on, and I think if this was ever made into a TV show, I would definitely watch it with my niece. I think she would absolutely love it. Plenty entertaining, but it felt like more could have been added to the story to really intrigue me a bit more and keep me more invested. I just wish it had been longer and we would have seen more from the characters. I did think some of the monsters that we saw were really fun. Like there was a baby Nessie or a harpy, and obviously, of course, there was a Frankenstein's monster. But in the end, I think I'm gonna put this as not for me, just because I think this would appeal more to someone younger than me. And I did give this 3 stars in the end because it was enjoyable, but I'm sure if I read this when I was like 12, I would have enjoyed it so much more. Next up, I read Stay Gold by Toby McSmith, and this was for the Spellbound Book Club's Read of the Month. I'll put a link to all of that stuff in the description down below. This rides the line between good and meh for me. I'll put it in good for now. Let's put it with good. This was a YA contemporary focusing on this boy named Pony who is trans. He has just recently moved to a new school and is essentially trying to live as a man without labeling himself as trans or coming out to anybody. Well, I liked those elements and I appreciate an own voices story. There were some issues with this. Namely, I had no investment in the romance plotline. We also see from the point of view of Georgia, who is the love interest, and honestly, I found her pretty detestable for most of the book. She is incredibly invested in her image to like her friends and the rest of her school, and the entire time all I could think was like, you're 17 in high school. Like, you're about to go to college. You should have much bigger priorities going on in your life than just this. And I thought that was a little too unrealistic. On top of it, there was also this character named Max who was trans as well and was one of Pony's friends and really was just constantly pushing him to come out as trans at his school. I understood the idea that Toby McSmith was creating, where it's kind of how do you ride the line between being accepted as a man while also being open and an advocate for the trans community, and I thought that was really interesting. However, I think this kind of started to push the line of like, you need to come out a bit too far, to the point where it was like, that's not always the safest option for trans kids, and this could maybe be a negative influence on that. Safety comes first. In the end, I gave this 3.5 stars. I'm starting to just realize that YA contemporaries really might not be for me anymore. Unfortunately, I think I might just be getting too old for them. So next up, I read The Supernatural Enhancements by Edgar Cantero. This was actually the first book I read in November / the last book I read in October, because this carried over from my Spooktober readathon. So this story is following a guy named A and his friend Neve. A has recently been left a giant mansion by a distant relative who he didn't know existed. And once they get in the mansion, they find out that his relative was a member of this secret society. There is suspicious circumstances regarding the way the guy died. On top of that, once living there, A starts to have these really graphic dreams. They think the house might be haunted. This was such an odd read, where you were reading it in terms of diary entries, letters. There would be transcriptions of video, audio recordings, interviews. Neve was actually mute, and she would write down how she would respond to things, and sometimes she would later fill it in to showcase us the entirety of a conversation. There would be different codes and clues included within the book itself, on top of excerpts from books that would allow you to try and solve the codes as well as the characters, which was really cool and immersed you into the story so much more. I would definitely recommend this if you want a book that's going to give your brain a workout. Fascinating read, very interesting. I liked the way the mystery was done. I'm gonna put this one in good, really liked it. Next, I also read The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This was a part of the Page Turner book club. I'll put a link to all that stuff in the description. You know the drill. This is a new favorite. We're following a guy named Linus, who is a caseworker for magical youth, and he ends up getting sent on assignment to this house that is home to many different peculiar children. The entirety of this book feels like a hug. It's so happy and whimsical. Every time I picked this up, I just had a smile on my face. This was just fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. I loved it. I already bought this book as a gift for a friend for Christmas, and I can't wait to make her read it. Next, I read the third book. Yes, the third book in the Percy Jackson series as part of the Percy Jackson read-along. You know, down below. Still an enjoyable one in the series. I really liked it, but I have to say I wasn't as big a fan of no Annabeth in this one, or less Annabeth than usual. And we got a replacement with Zoe, who's one of the hunters that works with Artemis, and personally, I just wasn't a very big fan of her. Maybe because she was mean to my baby Percy, and usually I want Percy to be the sassy one in these stories. Overall, still an enjoyable read, fun and adventurous, and I am very excited to continue on with the series. I am going to put this one in good. Finally, I read Tim O'Brien's The Things They Carried. This is a historical fiction / rides the line on nonfiction based on Tim O'Brien's experiences in the Vietnam War. This was a book club read for my Facebook book club. This was just not for me. It's told in different vignettes broken down between during the war, before the war, as well as after. And I was just having such a hard time connecting with any of the characters. And there was also this occasional shift where it would go from a narrative style to that in which Tim O'Brien is a narrator and is breaking the fourth wall, and it would kind of just take me out of it every time it would happen. I read it, so I'm gonna give it a rating, but I didn't enjoy this as much as someone who either really enjoys war style fiction would, or maybe a history buff who wants to learn more about the Vietnam War would enjoy it. It's unfortunate, but oh well. All right, so this is a pretty good breakdown of what my reading month looked like. I had a lot that were kind of riding in that 3-star area, but I did have 2 new favorites that made it up onto my new favorites shelf, which I redid earlier. Go check it out. All right, so now that we officially finished out my November wrap-up, let's dive into my December TBR and go over all of the books I'm planning to read this month, because there's a lot of them, given that I am partaking in 2 separate readathons on top of I just had a goal for myself that I wanted to get done already. First off, I have already started reading The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. I have loved this series ever since I was a kid, and I've been wanting to reread it for a long time. After that, however, we are going to be getting into the Disney Channel Games Readathon, which is hosted by a ton of my booktube friends and some awesome people I follow. I'll put all of that down below. You know, go check it out. Definitely encourage you to join, especially on the best team, the blue team. This readathon has 4 different teams based on the original 4 colors from the Disney Channel games, and for all of the prompts you complete, you win points for your team. There are also multiple different challenges broken down into 3-day increments, so I have a different book planned for all of these. However, the first one is Alphabet Goop, and you are supposed to use a random letter generator to figure out letter and find a book that corresponds with it, whether it be the first letter in the title or the author's first or last name. So first, we're gonna figure out what letter I get. All right, so this is the random letter wheel we have. Let's see what letter we get. R. Okay. I'm trying to see if it fits anything that I already had planned to read this month. Oh, okay, perfect. So R, Rick Riordan. I can read Battle of the Labyrinth by Rick Riordan, which is the 4th book in the Percy Jackson series. So bam, that works out perfectly. Beautiful. The next challenge is Simon Says, which is a book that has been recommended to you several times or by one of the hosts. I'm going to be reading Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. I have definitely been recommended this plenty of times, and I'm pretty sure one of those recommendations has had to have come from one of the hosts. After that, the prompt is Outrageous Obstacle Course, which is a book that is action-packed or with lots of twists and turns, and for that one, I'm going to be doing the last Percy Jackson book, The Last Olympian. Definitely going to have tons of action going on because these are such adventure rides. Next up is Dunk Tank, a book featuring water, and for that one I'm going to be going with The Disappearing Earth by Julia Phillips, I think. This is actually one of my book club reads for the month, and because of that, I found a way to make it fit. This is, I believe, a mystery taking place in Russia in the winter time, so gonna be lots of snow, and snow's frozen water. Sounds like a really crappy dunk tank, but hey, it works for the prompt. The last prompt is Extreme Egg Toss, and this is to buddy read a book. I am going to be joining the green team and reading In Holidays by Christina Lauren because the blue team is reading Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and I just read that last month. So instead, I am excited to try out some Christina Lauren. This is also a book club read for 2 of my other book clubs, and that worked out really great for me. After the Disney Channel Games Readathon, some of my other booktube friends, Catherine Zofri and M from Bookish Potatoes, are going to be hosting the 12 Days of Bookmas Readathon. They have made this lovely bingo chart to correspond with all of the different days for the 12 Days of Christmas, and I am gonna kind of go over some of the books I'm planning to read for this as well. The first up is 12 Drummers Drumming, and this is to read a book with music in it. But guess what? I don't have one planned. So if you have any recs, please leave them down below. I want to hear them. I need them. Girl needs help. After that is 11 Pipers Piping, read a audiobook. I am probably going to double count this with one of the other books I'm planning to read. Then it is 10 Lords Leaping, read a historical fiction. For that one, I'm planning to read Before the Double Breaks You, which is the 3rd book in the Diviners series by Libba Bray. After that is 9 Ladies Dancing, to read a book with a female protagonist, and I am going to be reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I am so excited to get into this. I cannot wait. Our main character is obviously Addie LaRue. Next up is 8 Maids a Milking, read a book while drinking something warm. Guess what? My favorite beverage of choice right now is either peppermint mochas or alcoholic hot chocolate, so that'll get done. Then there is 7 Swans a Swimming, and for that one we're supposed to read a book with water or near water, takes place on water, something along those lines. And for that one I'm going to be going with The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bayless, which is also the group read for this readathon. And as you can see from the front, there's ice skating. That counts, right? After that is 6 Geese a Laying, read a book while laying down. Trust me, will get done. I am double counting Addie LaRue for the next one, which is 5 golden rings, read a book with gold on the cover. After that is for Calling Birds, read a book during a live stream. They are going to have a number of live streams going on during the readathon, so I'll probably get to join one of those and get some reading done. 3 French Hens, read a book that takes place in a different country. I am either going to triple count Addie LaRue with that one because part of this takes place in France, or I'm going to be reading The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, which is the by Bookclubs read for the month, and I believe this takes place basically all in Europe. 2 Turtle Doves is to read a book with dual perspectives or mini perspectives, and I am going to double count before the devil breaks you for this one because, as I've mentioned, there are so many perspectives. Finally, A Partridge in a Pear Tree, read the group book. As I said, 12 Dates of Christmas, going to be reading that one. I cannot wait to partake in these. I'm so excited. I love doing readathons. They really get me energized to knock out as many books as I can. All right, because I have been filming for 2 hours now, we're gonna wrap this up quick and clean and officially say, go blue team, we will dominate. Thank you so much for coming to my channel today, guys. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Bye.